So this morning I thought I would put together a little gift idea. It's coming up for Christmas. You could use it as a Christmas gift, but not necessarily for Christmas. You could give it at any time of year. I'm just going to pop together a homemade concertina with a homemade dip pen and some homemade ink. And I think that would make a lovely little gift for an arty friend. So if that sounds like fun, let's have a look. Hi, I'm Helen. Welcome to my channel. So yesterday was such a lovely day here in the UK. We've had days of grey and we actually had some sunshine yesterday, which was really lovely. So I went for a really long walk. I packed my flask and a sandwich and took myself out for lunch. And I'd had sort of a bit of a day hike. And while I was out there, I thought it made me think that wouldn't it be a good idea to just collect a few sticks and let's make some dip pens. And one thought led to another, and I thought, well, let's have a dip pen with one of my homemade concertinas and some ink, and wouldn't that make a lovely gift for somebody? So that's what I'm going to put together this morning. I'm going to have a quick whistle through showing you how I put together a concertina, and then I'm going to get my craft knife out and make some just carve the nibs of some sticks to have as dip pens with that concertina. So yeah, let's get going. So this is for the concertina. So I've got a big sheet of, this is actually watercolour paper, which I'm just tearing down into strips, and it just happened to be what I've got. So use what you've got. Don't go, unless you want to, out buying anything special. I wanted to make a square concertina, so I've just marked it into squares and I'm scoring it so they fold easily. So I've got 3 concertinas out of this one sheet of paper. Cutting some covers I'm going to attach on. And with the spare piece of watercolour paper, I'm just cutting it now into pieces, and these pieces are going to act as hinges. So they're the same height as the book. I'm just going to fold them in half. So again, I just happen to have one of these crafty scoring things, but you don't need one of these just to make a hinge. And I'm just going to glue them in place. Because it's watercolour paper, it's nice and thick, so it works as a sturdy hinge on this one. And I like the look of grey card, so that's why I'm not covering the cover of this sketchbook. I'm just going to leave the grey card as the feature. But if you were reusing other materials, you know, that's already got marks on, then yeah, you can cover it. And in the next one I do cover that. So for me, that's kept it nice and pleasing. Like I say, I like the colour of the grey card. And so there's one of the covers. And of course, with a cover like that, you can decorate it however you want. So whoever receives this book, or if you're going to keep it yourself, you know, you can decorate it. So there we go, that's one. And I'm just going to put them, I've got a lovely old flat iron, and so it goes under the iron for a few hours just to flatten and dry. So with this one, I had some mount board card, but it had already got pencil marks on it, so I'm going to cover this. So I've got some brown paper. Again, one of my favourites, brown paper. I think this is probably just packaging. In fact, it will be just packaging. And I'm just gluing those squares of card onto the paper. and smoothing it down. And then giving it a bit of a trim because this is going to be folded over. So I want it kind of to look quite neat. And so I'm just using the width of the ruler and cutting off some corners. Now I've only cut 2 corners here, and there's a reason why. So I'm just going to glue that one on. And then I'm just marking a line, and that's going to be joining onto the book. So I'm cutting the corner, but one side of that is going to work as a hinge. So that's a straight-sided flap, if you like. So this is gluing down the other flaps. And it will all become clear in a few minutes. I'm going to do exactly the same with the other one. And now you can see what I'm going to do. So that now works as a hinge, like the other piece of paper, but I want obviously to cover the white patches as well. So I'm cutting 2 rectangles now, which are the same width as the square covers, but as long, it includes that flap as well. So the length is the same length as whatever you've done the flap. I hope that's clear. So I want 2 rectangles there to just cover all of that. Okie dokie. So that is going to glue onto there. So I'm just gluing my hinge on. And then this is the, if you like, inside cover. Just to cover your other flaps. And it also reinforces, it gives you a hinge on both sides. That's my 3rd one. So it's 3 concertinas from 1 piece of paper. Okay, so we've got our concertina. So this is one of the 3 that I made. So this is the one with the covered cover. And this is one of the ones with the cardboard and the hinge. So I've just done the hinge on one side, not the other side. And then this is one that I actually have used. So I've painted in it. And so yeah, that's let's see. I just had a little fun time doing some doodling in the garden sometime. So I actually quite liked tying it with garden twine just to keep it closed. And I thought this is one that a little stick pen that I made. I think I made this last year and haven't used it yet, but I popped it in there and thought, wouldn't that make a lovely gift? And you could package it together in, I've got a homemade box like this. You could pop it in there. I haven't got any ink in here, but these are very useful. These are the little individual pots of jam you get when you go out and you have a cream tea for all you Brits. But you could put in, I mean, I've got a commercial bottle of ink here. You could put in a bottle of ink. You could put in a water brush. And yeah, wouldn't that make a lovely gift? So the thing so I'm going to carve some some sticks now. So I collected some sticks yesterday, but just be aware of size and how you're going to package it. So I've got a little diddy one if you wanted to just wrap that like that. So your stick, you know, you don't want it protrude. I wouldn't want it protruding too much bigger than your sketchbook. Or if you're going to package it in a box, you know, think of your dimension of your box. Think of how you're going to package it together. So I collected a few sticks yesterday. So I've got, now believe it or not, I know I'm a bit strange. I don't remember what that one is, but I do like to know where these sticks have come from. So these three are from underneath the oak tree. So that's oak wood. This one is some willow. That snuck in. Don't quite remember where that was. I think it's probably oak. And then I've got two other pieces that I picked up on the way back. And these ones, you can see they're quite different. And this is actually beech wood. So I'm going to keep them separate because I want to see how, I'm a carpenter's daughter, I want to see how they differ. So this one is quite, this one has got quite nice, I don't know whether you can see it. Can you focus in on that? It's got a quite nice end, safe end to it. So I'm actually going to just play around with fashioning this end. Some of the tools I've got here, I've got a pair of secateurs, just my garden secateurs. I've got my Stanley knife. I've got my craft knife, which I keep in a rubber, in an eraser. And I've also got some sandpaper. So this is just wet and dry. This is just what I happen to have in the studio. I always have this tucked away on one of the shelves in one of my boxes, just a piece of emery paper, sandpaper. Anyway, so it's that. But also, now I'm sure we all have these things, emery boards. Now, how many times have you bought an emery board and you sort of think, oh, damn, this is not the right one? And this is a really coarse one. I don't like using it, but I thought if you don't have sandpaper to hand, why not use an emery board? So I've got an emery board as well, one that I don't like using. So I think that would be useful. So let's get going. So we're going to keep this end here. So I'm just going to, I think I'm just going to trim the end carefully with the secateurs and see where we go, whether we like it at that or not. So what I've done before in the past is kind of the stick has kind of dictated itself what sort of nib it's going to be, what sort of shape nib it's going to be. So I'm just literally filing this until we get a nice end. And of course the joy of this is that now I wouldn't want to try this before I gave it because the ink is going to stain your stick. But, you know, maybe in your box as well, put an emery board or something like that so that whoever you're gifting it to can refine the tip, the nib, to you know, their preference. So basically we're just pointing the end a bit. And you know, you can just sort of try it a little bit. But yeah, so that would be kind of a good size for my little square concertina here. You don't need to use a concertina. You could use any sort of homemade notebook. You could even also package together, tie together a variety of different papers. Yeah. So anyway, so that, I'm going to call that my number one. This one, now it's quite nice to play around with long sticks. I have got a long stick So I have got a long stick, which I do use. And I can't remember, wouldn't know what wood this is, but having a long stick, you're using, you know, you can use it at the end, so you've got less control over the stick, or you can, you know, use it nearer the nib with more control. So that sort of length stick is actually quite nice. This one I haven't really bothered too much in making it, you know, too safe. It's okay, but this end is nice and smooth. And of course, now it's got ink on it, it is, it's quite nice and smooth. So I think I'm going to do the same sort of thing with these. But because if you're going to make them as a gift, then maybe, you know, make sure the end is, you haven't got any rough bits on it. What I like to do is kind of just play with the stick. How would you hold it? And I'm thinking this end is nicer to hold than this end. This is all a bit rough and bobbly. So I think this end is going to be the nib end. I might leave that bobbly bit there. Do I need this up here, or shall I cut it off here? Let's try cutting it here first of all. Oopsie. Let's try cutting it here. So these are literally only picked up yesterday, so they're not completely dried. So I've just straightened that end off there. And I'm just gonna, actually, you know, an emery board works really well. And it's probably a useful thing to have in your pencil case, even for sharpening, you know, your pencils. So that's nice and smooth. So I'm happy with that there. This end, I'm going to cut to a point. So I'm going to take this bit off here. Yeah, I'm going to take that bit off there. That's not cut through very well. Okie dokie. So I'm going to take some of this, some of the bark off of here, I think. I'm just going to peel this a little bit. So make sure you have a craft mat when you're doing this. Okay, let's see. A little bit. Okay, so my emery paper is much finer, so I get a much smoother finish. But the emery board is really working well as a first rough sand. Okay, I'm quite liking that. So these are going to be quite chunky sticks. So that's the willow. So do you know, I think I might just put a label on these so I know what they are. I'm not going to keep the label on, but just for the moment. So this was the willow. I'm going to carry on and see where we go. So those are my oak sticks. And these two, slightly darker, they're sort of more red in the bark, and they're quite smooth already. So these are the beechwood ones. I think that's going to be the nib this end, and that'll be square off. So let's do you first of all. Actually cut differently, so that's interesting. I know it's going to depend on how damp your stick is, how dry it is. So I picked these yesterday and they've been sat on the windowsill here. There's a radiator under the windowsill. So they've had time to dry overnight. And it was a nice sunny day yesterday. We actually haven't had too much rain. It's just been so grey. Just feel like, you know, the Snoopy character that's underneath that cloud. It's kind of felt like we've been underneath a cloud for days. Anyway, sunshine again today, which is lovely. So that's sorted that end out there. And let's do this one now. Yeah, this is cutting differently. Of course, you don't need to know what tree you're picking the wood up from underneath. And obviously don't go picking any branches from trees. I think it's safe enough just to, in a public area, pick up sticks that have fallen from the tree. But I was just curious because, you know, there was a very, you know, there was a big difference in sort of the colour and the feel of the sticks. And I was just curious as to whether or not it would make a difference with the carving or with the use. So that was the only reason why I kind of was curious, just to keep tabs on what sort of stick it is I'm using here. And this beechwood is actually coming away quite nicely, so I've peeled quite a lot of that bark off there. So I am finding it useful having the finer sandpaper, but I haven't really used the fine side of the emery board. So if you didn't have sandpaper, you could just use both sides of the emery board. This one's feeling very lovely, very nice and smooth. Yeah, I'm quite liking the beechwood. I don't want to get rid of any texture of the wood, but obviously you don't want any sharp, really sharp bits, because, you know, you are going to be holding it in your hand. Okay, so that's that one. That's my beech. And this is my other beech one. And so the other beech one is going to fit a bit nicer with the concertina books that I've got. It's better. Okay. Now, with anything with knives and blades, just take your time, be aware of safety considerations, always have a craft mat underneath to protect your surface, always cut away from you, never towards you. You're a grown-up, you know these things, but just be aware of safety considerations. So I've had to work with this stick because it had a crack in it already, so I've had to shorten it to reduce that crack. So you are bound by the materials that you have, the natural materials, which is half the fun of it. And nobody else is going to have a dip pen like this, because this is 100% unique, and it will evolve and it will always be unique. It's never going to be the same as anything else, and it's never going to produce exactly the same marks as another one, which is how lovely is that? So there we have it. Those are my sticks. I'm going to clear up and then we'll have another look at it. I'm going to go wash my hands and put all this debris in the compost bin, and be right back with you. So there we have it. Those are my little concertina sketchbooks with the homemade dip pens, and I think they make a sweet little gift. That's a lovely little gift. I'd love to receive something like that somebody's made for me. Yeah, I've had great fun carving these, and if you didn't want to give them as a gift, you can always use them yourself. So next time you're out on a walk, why don't you collect some sticks and have a go at making some dip pens and give them away as gifts to your arty friends. I hope that's inspired you to have a go. And thank you for all the likes and the wonderful comments. It really does mean a lot to me. So thank you very much. So until next time, so happy hunting. Pick up a stick next time you're out. So until next time, thanks for watching. Bye for now.